that soft, supple, perky little... Down, Satan! I rebuke you, O Prince of Darkness! Down, I say!
If you were a kid who grew up in the church, you heard this song at least once a month. It's What a Mighty God We Serve. The angels bow before him, heaven and earth adore him, what a mighty God we serve. This rendition of What a Mighty God We Serve is a bit pushing it for the 80s and 90s, so there were times where maybe there were some people in the congregation that were thinking, is this a little bit too touchy or racy? But if things got lively, you'd hear the refrain, the chorus several times as people got more lively. But that was the old days. And if you hadn't figured it out, the black church has changed considerably since then.
To set the record straight, and I like it. I don't care whether you like it or not. She ain't mad to y'all, she's mad to me.
You a good girl, ain't you, Gina? So why don't you get on your knees?
What?
And pray with me.
If you've ever been to New Year's Eve watch night service, at least as much as I can remember, it's a solemn occasion where you're quiet and you reflect on the year past and you thank God for what you have and you're praying for the year to be. It's not really a celebratory kind of thing, depending on the church, but now it's about other stuff.
I needed to deal with it head on because the other day the internet went crazy about a dress my wife had on. Now, they didn't say anything about the $4 million that was raised for the United Negro College Fund. They never mentioned that she prayed until heaven came down. They never said anything about this was the largest fundraiser for for HBCUs in the country. But insecure, jealous, petty, small-minded, people got in their feelings and set up a false barometer of holiness based off of a dress. Y'all don't like this. I need to set the record straight. I bought the dress. And I like it. I don't care whether you like it or not. She ain't mad to y'all, she mad to me.
One thing that is very clearly noticeable, if you're listening to that crowd, it sounds like an R. Kelly concert, a Chris Brown concert. 90% women, it's gotta be. And they are loving this. He knows exactly who his audience is.
And I like it. I don't care whether you like it or not. She ain't mad to y'all, she mad to me. Now, if you wanted a first lady that looked like Little House on the Prairie and Holly Hobbie, you got the wrong church. I wanted a wife I would rush home to, that I wanted to be excited to see. When we walked in there, I said, shake it fast, watch yourself. If you don't have nobody that you excited about, trade that booger in and find you somebody that Negroes can talk about. How did you bag that?
Now remember, first thing, his wife is on stage applauding what he's saying. So it's pretty obvious where his motivation lies. I'm not thinking it's Jesus and holiness in the church. That's number one. But number two, listen to that crowd. That is a country club for black feminists. This is a watch night service on a New Year's Eve. Do you hear anything about setting resolutions for the next year, for finding holiness, the sacrifices you're going to make so that you can have a more blessed year? You're hearing about how dare people come down on my wife, the first lady of this church, for wearing a dress that, frankly,
She ain't nothing but a hoochie mama. Hood rat, hoochie mama.
comes from, I don't know.
Oh, I love those
we have placed the full responsibility of warding off temptation on women without putting a demand of sexual discipline on men.
And Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, comes in many forms.
Here, and I'm finished. I want you to know I'm still the man. In spite of what it is that God has in fact provided me through, in spite of my failures, in spite of my shortcomings, in spite of my failures, in spite of me falling down, I'm still the man.
He may come in the form of a man who has not been out with a woman in 3 years.
If you're not here next week, I'm still preaching. If you don't come Tuesday, I'm still preaching. If you turn the TV off next Sunday night, I'll still be preaching, because the anointing on my life is greater than any mistake.
3 years, 6 months, 2 weeks, and 14 hours.
When I say that the modern black church is really a black feminist country club, you can actually hear it in the message. This is a message he's giving to his watch night service participants. It's literally a sermon about feminism.
Our misogyny has become institutionalized and cloaked under spirituality. Today, if a man falls out at the altar, you will let him lay there. But if a woman lays out at the altar, you'll pull out more sheets than Bed, Bath, and Beyond. In the black church that you were raised in, ushers coming down the aisle had to put their hand behind their back. That was, in fact, instituted for female ushers, so that men who were sitting on the aisle would not be attracted to look at their derriere. So they had to put their hand behind their back to block the eyes of nasty deacons who we have swallowed an Americanized culture. The American culture asked women first, what were they wearing? As if the hemline is an invitation to violation.
All I have to say is, if this is the black church,
It's over! It's over, ladies and gentlemen!
and as you can imagine, this resonated with guess who?
When we talk about our participation in grape culture, our participation in patriarchy as a system that oppresses women, that polices bodies, I think that he was absolutely correct. You look like something. They think you in there trying to fish for a husband, or you fishing for the deacons when the whole time you just coming to see the Lord. You trying to be in the house of the Lord.
Y'all ain't saying nothing to, but you ain't gonna be in my face and dishonor my wife. Y'all ain't saying nothing. I need some people that will fight for yours, that will stand for yours, that will demand respect for yours.
To be quite frank with you, I never thought in a million years that I would hear a male black pastor say something to advocate for women in the way that he advocates for them in this sermon. It is powerful. So she's covered up. She looks classy. She looks amazing. And women who are secure within themselves are able to celebrate other women without judgment. And there is a passage in the Bible somewhere. I'm not going to quote it verbatim, but basically, if you cannot look away from a woman, you're not supposed to judge the woman, but you're supposed to gouge your eye out with a hot spoon, meaning mind your business. Please, let's give it up for the dress. Like a moment for the gown. Hello. She's exactly who she thinks he is. She is exactly who she thinks she is. And her man, her husband, agrees. Beautiful.
I went and looked at the dress. Pastor Jamal Bryant's wife. So it's okay for these 18-year-old girls to wear the shit that they wear to prom. It's okay for a stripper to wear this because she's a stripper. But when it comes to church, y'all always got something to say about the church. And y'all don't even go to church.
If you don't have nobody that you excited about, trade that booger in and find you somebody that Negroes can talk about. How did you bag that?
If you know my content, you know that on occasion I have criticism or critique for some black women. But generally speaking, I do have my critiques for the Western version of women, especially the modern version, because of a variety of reasons. But that said, I do like to stay away from general terms like Keisha for this particular reason. This woman gets it right.
The same way you respect me, you gonna have to respect her. And if you don't respect her, find you somewhere else to go. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me, but you ain't gonna be in my face and dishonor my wife. Y'all ain't saying nothing. I need some people that will fight for yours, that will stand for yours, that will demand respect for yours.
See, y'all know when y'all always saying that Jesus knocked over tables, it was because people were exploiting the poor. Matthew 21:13, he said that we have made his temple a den of thieves. I wonder what would Jesus say now? What does his temple look like to y'all? Because we are talking about everything else other than what Jesus will want us to be talking about. We talking about how somebody dressed. We trying to encourage people to go lead a man if they're no longer excited and go find somebody else. Are we encouraging divorce? Are we encouraging fornication? Because I'm confused. We putting secular music into the sermon. We twisting the scripture. Revelations 19:13, and Mark, he done twisted all of the scriptures just to make it all apply to him, speaking about the dress his wife wore because he's upset that people did not agree with it. Baby, people gonna have opinions because like he said, he's a public servant. And when you married your wife, she became a public servant too. And one minute you say that y'all can't disrespect my wife, but you can disrespect me. The next minute you talking about you got to respect my wife like you would respect me. They're doing what they do, and that is giving their opinion the same way Jamal Bryant gives his opinion on everything else.
I'm not Fox News, so I don't feel a need to put fair and balanced at the bottom of my videos, but this woman is spot on. If it's a church, it needs to be a church. But if it's something else, stop calling it a church, because what I just saw, that is not the church that I grew up watching my grandparents preach in. It's just not. I don't think I've ever heard either of my grandparents utter the word misogyny. And here is a preacher at a watch night service getting ready to reign in the new year, talking about fashion and misogyny and how the deacons and the old pastors were perverts. And that's the reason why women had to keep their hand behind their back. That's not church. That is a feminist meeting. And if that's what the modern church is, then there's no reason for men to go there. You heard that crowd. That crowd sounds like a Chris Brown concert and is 90% women. And the men that are there are essentially championing the same ideas. I'm not saying that church is good or bad. I'm saying that if this is the modern version of the church, it doesn't have anything for black men. Dr. Tiesan Johnson, and more specifically BJS Idmore, speak often of the desire of many young women in this community to want compromised men, because compromised men are very easy to control, one, and they become allies in your black feminism fight. And what we heard in that sermon is a compromised black man. I don't know how much money he has to pay in child support. I don't know what his legal situation is, but he only has one way out, and that is to be an apologist for feminism in the black church and turn the black church into a black feminist social club, because that's what we saw, not the church that I grew up watching. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you next video. Take care, guys.